Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's CommonLit 360 Curriculum Sneak Peek. My name is Adrienne Favors, and I am a senior curriculum writer here at CommonLit.org, and I would like to wish you a good day. I don't know quite what time it is where you are. It's morning where I am, but we are joined with people from all over the United States and the world. So it could be morning, it could be night, it could be evening. I just want to wish you a good day. Before we get started with today's sneak peek webinar, I'd also like to say thank you. Thank you so much for taking time, these 30 minutes, to join us and learn more about Common Lit 360 curriculum. We're so excited that it is now live on our website, and I am so excited to be able to share these wonderful things with you today. But I also want to say thank you for all the things you have been doing for students in classrooms across America and the world to ensure that they are learning and thriving in what has been an interesting year at best. The launch of CommonLit 360 is unlike the launch of any other feature or product in the history of CommonLit.org. It is the cumulative effort of 3 years of hard work of multiple teams building platforms, lessons, behind the scenes, engineering, all the things to make CommonLit 360 curriculum work. But the most exciting thing I'm going to tell you today is that everything that I am going to be demoing, sharing with you, showing you how to get into is absolutely free. That's right. Everything I'm going to share with you today on CommonLit 360 Sneak Peek webinar is absolutely free. The reason we brought you in a little bit early is we actually want your feedback. We want to know what you're excited about. We want to know your questions, your wonderings. And so we want to know what you think about CommonLit 360 curriculum. So before we get started with our agenda and the call in general, I want to go over a few question and answer logistics. I am joined on this call by one of my colleagues, and he is going to be able to answer your questions throughout today's webinar. That means if you have a question, you don't have to hold it to the very end. You don't have to put it on a little sticky note and remember like, okay, this is my parking lot. I'm going to ask my question later. You just simply click the Q&A feature, the button, ask your question, and it will be answered throughout today's webinar. We're going to ask that you do not raise your hand and that you also do not put your question in the chat feature. It's a lot of us here, and we're going to be using that to introduce ourselves and get to know a little bit about each other. And so if you put your question there, it just might get lost. So before I head into our webinar agenda, I want you to take a moment, if you haven't done so already, go to the chat, click in your information. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and if you're interested, your role and what you do. It gives us a chance to know who joined us on these calls, but more importantly, it gives each of you a chance to learn who's on the call with you today. In order to ensure the most smooth technological experience we could possibly have, I'm going to turn my video off now. But have no fear, I will join you a little bit later towards the end of this webinar to close with some key highlights and some wonderful information. So here is our agenda for the next 30 minutes. I'm going to start by sharing with you what is CommonLit 360 curriculum. I'm going to take you through a look at the structure of the curriculum, how it's designed. Then we're going to do a deep dive into a unit and look at what's included in CommonLit 360 curriculum. Also, I'm going to share at the very end when it will be released. Hint, hint, it's already released. And I'll also be able to share with you how you can get access. The last thing I'm going to share is I'm going to share with you a 5-minute feedback survey because your feedback is so important to us. It helps us grow and be able to make sure edition 1.0 is working for you, and edition 2.0 is working for all the ones who will learn more about it. So what is CommonLit 360? Well, as I've already mentioned, it is a free, comprehensive full-year curriculum. It addresses grades 6 through 10. It includes lots of new content that I'm going to get an opportunity to share with you today, plus lots of new and exciting features. CommonLit 360 is ready to use materials. You're going to be blown away when we get to the materials page. And we were so fortunate that we were able to develop this curriculum alongside 50 schools nationally. So CommonLit 360, this is the structure of the curriculum. There are 6 units per grade, as you can see here. Each unit includes everything you need for 5 to 7 weeks of instruction. Each unit focuses on a different genre. So the first one looks at short stories. The second one is short stories, but the kids are making cross-textual connections. We have a novel unit, a research unit, another cross-textual unit, which includes multi-genre, as well as an evidence-based argument unit. The structure of this curriculum allows the coverage of the standards. So students get a wide swath of experience with the standards. Now, as we look at one particular grade, let's take a deeper dive and a closer look at the progression of units across grades. As you move across a grade, each unit builds on the previous one. It builds in terms of rigor. Here, we're just looking at single short stories. Here, we're actually making connections across multiple stories. And in unit 3, we're actually reading a whole novel. So it grows in terms of the complexity of skill, the complexity of task. It grows in terms of the volume of reading students are not only exposed to, but are doing by themselves. And it also grows in terms of writing expectations. In unit 4, they're writing a research paper. Unit 5, they're writing a cross-textual paper. And unit 6, they're making an original argument in a persuasive paper. Another amazing feature of CommonLit 360 is the vertical alignment. That means all of the unit ones focus on a similar genre and vertically aligned skills. So let's say you're an instructional support person who supports grades 6, 7, and 8. All of those unit ones are going to be focused on short stories. It brings a type of coherence to the training you can provide for teachers. Now, I am a former English language arts department chair, and so I would have loved to have had this feature that my 9th and 10th grade teachers could really do some serious collaboration on vertical alignment and what should be happening in 9th grade and 10th grade and ensuring that students were successful for the next grade. So this just brings, again, all the grades are working on similar skills, similar genres, and it just brings a really great coherence to the type of training you can provide. And I'm going to press escape mode and I'm going to take us out of the presentation and I'm actually going to take you over to our website. So here is commonlit.org and I'm going to take you through what you would do as a teacher to get into the curriculum. As you can see, we already have our banner to let you know it is live, yay. All I would need to do is click on Browse Content. I would then click on 360 Curriculum, and it would take me to, ta-da, the CommonLit 360 curriculum page. It includes all of the information I just shared with you here, but it also includes an amazing comprehensive curriculum guide. It opened up fast for us this time. So this guide includes all of the information I just shared with you. So if you wanted to get like a really great overview of the curriculum, this is an amazing resource to use and to have access to. It also includes an overview of our core beliefs, the scope and sequence for each grade, what's included in each grade, and then look at this. Oh, isn't this amazing? It includes all of the units, all of the essential questions, all of the text in one shot. So this is a great resource to just kind of flag and tag for yourself. Let's head back to the units page. And I just want to take a moment to take us into a unit guide overview. So this is going to give us a chance to look at a broad sweep. So I'm going to do everything you would do. I'm going to go over here and download my unit guide. Right now I'm just looking, but if you had students, you could do more students. And as this opens, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. And I want to tell you a few things about this unit guide. Let's click it. This unit guide is from 6th grade, unit 1. And every unit comes with a unit guide. So this is going to help you internalize the unit and plan for instruction. You'll see from this guide that our units include grammar, discussion, and vocabulary skills. This unit guide also includes the arc of reading instruction, all the text that students will be reading, as well as the arc of writing instruction. So all of the writing lessons that students will be experiencing in this unit. As I continue to scroll, you'll get to our pacing guide. So in order to plan for instruction, this guide is provided to tell you, like, here's what we think is essential, things that I necessarily would not skip, things that are optional, looking at your pacing, do you have time for an activity like this? And things that are recommended. Again, we would highly suggest you do that activity, that it is up there with essential, but we know pacing from classroom to classroom can be different. Let's head back over to our materials page. And I'm just gonna click into here. Actually, I'm gonna go here and go back into our units page. And I want to take a moment to walk you through all of the units and give you a little bit of a taste of what you might experience in the CommonLit 360. In sixth grade, we have Unit 1, and these are characters who grow and change. These are great stories that look at characters who undergo a growth or a change over the text. And one of my favorite stories is Raymond's Run, which features Squeaky, who grows and changes and learns not only something about herself, but something about the other characters in the story. In Unit 2, we have failure and success. And in this particular unit, one of my favorite stories is Lada's Key. And in Lada's Key, students learn that sometimes failure can lead to success. And it's oftentimes the predecessor to success. In Unit 3, students are reading the novel, The Watsons Go to Birmingham. In Unit 4, students are looking at the research unit, Are Changing Oceans. This research unit is a great timely unit for students to learn about the effects of human pollution on oceans. It includes explicit instruction in research and expository writing, and students are going to end up writing a letter to a senator or to a public official advocating for solutions to a problem in the ocean that feels very personal to them. In Unit 5, we have Embracing Our Differences. Is it better to fit in or to stand out? Again, this is a fiction, nonfiction, and poetry unit, and it really gets students thinking about how do we begin to embrace our unique identities and have the courage to be the people who break those barriers. In grade 7, seventh grade, we have Unit 1, In or Out, or Struggle to Belong. And this unit is just a great unit for when you think about the period of adolescence and our desire to fit in. So this unit explores the universal human need to belong. Where do we fit in? How do we fit in? And why do we want to fit in? Now, for all of my middle school teachers, administrators, and instructional support on this call, you know middle school is all about adolescence. That fun, wild, chaotic, period that students go through as they begin to change from child and begin to move into adult. So this is one of my favorite units. It's got a great story about falling in love. It's got wonderful poetry about what it might feel like to be an adolescent. And so I think students would really love experiencing this unit as a class. In Unit 3, we have the novel The Giver for seventh grade. And in Unit 4, seventh graders are looking at social media, the risk and the rewards. They're asking themselves, is social media more risky or more beneficial for teens? And so they're weighing the cost and the benefits of engaging in social media, and they're ultimately deciding, yeah, worth the benefit, it's a little too risky. In Unit 5, students are looking at new perspectives. What happens when something challenges our point of view? How do we respond when the world is not what we envisioned? So another great opportunity of thinking about others. As we move into eighth grade Unit 1 is Bad Behavior. This is a fun unit for people to kind of read and really think about how characters making those critical moral decisions. How do we decide what we're going to do and why we do bad things? In Unit 2, students are looking at courageous choices, and they're reading one of my favorite texts again, which is an interview with one of the Greensboro Four who sat at the Woolworth counter and protested segregation in the 60s. And so it's a great interview with him. And he really talks about why do people make those difficult choices to stand up and what it actually takes to be brave enough to stand up in difficult times. We have Unit 3, which is their novel unit, Brown Girl Dreaming. In Unit 4, students are looking at contact sports, and they're asking themselves, is it worth the risk? So sort of like social media, we've got some benefits, we've got some negative things. Is it worth the risk to growing teen bodies? Do those benefits outweigh those risks? In Unit 5, students are looking at alien encounters, and I grew up watching a lot of Twilight Zone and a lot of unsolved mysteries, so I'm on the fence. I think something's out there. So this would be a fun unit to look at with students, but it really gets students to be in the position of looking at what it might feel like to encounter something so foreign than who we are. And so have you ever wondered, has life exist beyond Earth? What would it be like to encounter other people? How would they react to us? This unit really gets students thinking about ourselves as humans, but looking at it through the lens of science fiction. In ninth grade, we have Unit 1, Following the Crowd. Students are engaging into these short, suspenseful stories about how being in a group affects a person's behavior and decision making. I am a former high school English language learner teacher. And so, as I look at this particular set of stories, I am so intrigued by it. And I think I would definitely want to sit down with students and have them think about being in a crowd can sometimes change your behavior and what are the effects of our decision making when we're around other people. As we begin to look at Unit 2, people and the environment, students are looking at how humans affect the environment around them and what is the link between humanity and nature, and really thinking about how can we sustain nature through our actions and not be so detrimental to nature. As we look in Unit 3, students are reading the novel Animal Farm. In Unit 4, students are looking at the science of branding. Why do we buy what we buy? Did you buy those white shoes with the little check on them because you love white shoes with checks on them? Or did you buy those shoes because someone persuaded you that you needed those shoes? And so in this particular research unit, students are learning the psychology behind certain advertising techniques, and they're also learning to write a research paper and really say, like, why do people buy? What are the things that make people buy the things they buy? Unit 5 for ninth grade is looking at the relationship between parents and children and looking at the different joys and struggles that parents and children commonly experience, especially as students are moving towards adulthood and becoming adults. In 10th grade, we have Unit 1, which is looking at coming of age. And so that's that time in our life when we're not quite child, we're not quite teenager, we're not quite adult, but we're definitely on the way of moving. And we just start to have all these realizations about the adult world that our child world just didn't include. In Unit 2, students are looking at science fiction and social commentary. Again, this is one of my favorite units, as you can tell. There's a great story here called The Wretched and the Beautiful, and it is the arrival of two separate sets of aliens. And so these aliens arrive to Earth and they are treated in different ways. And so students can actually dig into complex contemporary social issues when we give them kind of a fictional world to explore them. And so as we begin to think about science fiction as social commentary, this unit allows students to dig into really deep societal issues while exploring them through a motif of aliens and science fiction. In 10th grade, Unit 3, Things Fall Apart, is the novel unit. Unit 4, students are researching the fashion industry past to present, and they're making the connection between America's first textiles factories and today's fast fashion industry. And so our students are consumers of a lot of fast fashion. Have they ever thought about where did that come from? And where did the process come from to create like 10,000 shirts at one time? And so students really get to dig into who were the people who made our clothes, where did this model come from, and in what ways has it changed, in what ways has it not changed since its inception. In Unit 5, students are looking at stories of war, stories of memory and loss. Many times when students look at war as a theme, we're looking at places and maps and soldiers and wars and battles. Well, we often forget there was another set of witnesses. They were the people who were actually the ones who saw it and were affected by it on the ground. And so this unit does a great job of balancing those two voices, the soldier voice of what it must have felt like to be fighting a war, but also the witnesses who witnessed the war. Again, this is a multi-genre unit, so there's going to be nonfiction texts and poems that really get into exploring the experience of war and its human cost. So there you have it. That's what our CommonLit curriculum 360 curriculum looks like. Now I'm going to take you into a single unit and I want to show you the amazing resources we have for each unit. As you saw a little bit earlier, I clicked here. This is where you would find your unit guide. And then as I click this second tab called Lessons and Materials, here is where all of the materials are. CommonLit is so ready to use. Like as a teacher, I would cry if someone handed this to me because everything I need is right here. Let's start with this slide deck. As you see, it's going to ask me to make a copy. This is the intro deck for 6th grade, Unit 1. There's an intro deck provided for every grade. And this intro deck really does what an intro deck should do. It's going to introduce the unit title, it's going to introduce the theme of the unit, and it's going to get some build some interest for students. So as it's kind of filling in here, I'm going to walk you through a few things. First, each introduction unit is going to introduce you to the unit's essential question: how are people changed through their relationships and experiences? We believe students have a voice and we want to engage that voice. So here are some ways students might explore the unit's big questions. So they have a handout and it says, rate how strongly you agree or disagree with each of these statements. People don't change who they are. Their personalities and habits stay the same their entire life. Do you agree with that or disagree? We encourage discussion so students get to kind of share out which one did you agree with the most? Which one would you disagree with the most? Additionally, we want to build some want and some buy-in for what students are reading. So here they get a little blurb about the text they're going to read and a simple question. Which text sounds interesting to you? Why? Which one are you looking forward to reading? And then lastly, we want students to think about their confidence level with a little bit of self-monitoring or a self-questionnaire. Rate your confidence level for this unit's reading and writing skills. Guess what? Students can put like, I'm not confident at all in finding the central idea. As a teacher, I would love to know that because that means I'm going to check in with that student and make sure that as we're going throughout the unit, they're getting more and more confident with those skills. As we head back to our materials page, I'm going to do a little bit of a scroll. We have a writing baseline assessment here, and I'm going to stop here at our vocabulary activity set. Teachers who have had an opportunity to use our vocabulary rave. They love our vocabulary instruction. I think it's for two reasons. One reason is the words that are used in the vocabulary activities actually come from the text that students are reading. If they don't come from the text, they're a thematic word that will help students understand the theme of the unit. So all of these words are applicable to what they're reading. They're not just some random words out in space. The first activity that students are going to do is called in context predictions. So what students will receive is they get a sentence with the word in it. They also get a picture where the concept is being visually described, as well as a caption. And so the first thing we ask students to do, instead of telling them the definition, using your context clues, make a prediction. What do you think this word might mean? Then we, of course, give students the correct definition. As we move into activity 2, you can assign these as do nows. You can do them in the class as sponge activities. You can do it as a homework activity. There's a lot of flexibility in how you can actually use vocabulary in your classroom. Here, activity 2 is a typical activity you would see in vocabulary. It is fill in the blank sentences. Activity 3, again, each activity is really pushing students to learn these words deeply and meaningfully. So we have fill in the blank scenarios. This is one of my faves. Students are giving a scenario, and that scenario is describing one of the words. And so they have to not only pick the correct word, they also have to give me the reason why they think that word is the correct word. So again, it's really pushing students to make those connections to what those words really mean. In activity 4, students are connecting the word to a synonym. So again, making the word really sticky. As I like to say, adding some Velcro to the word so it's got some tack and they'll be able to remember it. So as we look at the word burden, what might be a good synonym for burden? I'm going to pick weight. As I look here at despair, what might be a good word for despair? As I look at my words, hopeless. So again, we're just adding more Velcro to make those words sticky for students. Last but not least, students have activity 5, which is application of vocabulary. And what this allows students to do, it allows students to make it personal. So what is one household chore that feels like a burden to you? Explain why. Have you ever felt reluctant to do something? Describe the situation. So again, it's not your average vocabulary instruction. It really, the goal is students may only learn a small amount of words, but they'll learn them deeply, meaningfully, and then they'll use those words in their reading. Let's head back over to the assignments page or the materials page. I'm going to just briefly stop here. These are supplemental texts. These are provided as a way for differentiation in your classroom. So some of these texts are on grade level, above grade level, and some of them just provide more context for students. So students need more things to read. They need a little bit more background information. This is provided here. For my language learners and my language learning schools, there are also texts provided in Spanish. So you also have it both in English and Spanish for all students and all types of learners in your classroom. As we continue to scroll, I'm going to stop here at this lesson called Raymond's Run. And we're going to look at our reading instruction here with CommonLit 360. If you're familiar already with CommonLit CommonLit.org, you understand we have read aloud, translate, highlighting, all of these great resources for students. But what's new for CommonLit.org, CommonLit 360, we have a purpose for reading. And so again, we understand that this unit is all about how characters grow and change. So of course, the standard would be to understand and track a character's thoughts. We also have these questions here to help students build a mental model as they're reading. So they have some right questions, so they would actually be able to type their answer in here. We also have find evidence questions where it says find a piece of evidence in paragraph 2. I think that's a great piece of evidence. They can actually highlight their evidence right there in the moment. As we also begin to move down, you'll also notice we have these reading modalities. So we have things like partner reading. Up above, we had a whole class reading. As a teacher, you can use these if you need them. They're just there to help break up the reading and provide a different reading experience for students as they go along. I want to show you another feature before I leave this reading lesson. As a teacher, if you were looking for like, where are the answers to these questions? Like, how do I facilitate these things? You're going to click download PDF. You're going to make a teacher copy. And this teacher copy is going to provide everything you need. It's going to provide your lesson overview, which tells you situationally, where is this reading lesson? What is it about? How should you facilitate this? Including the learning goal or goal for the day. It includes the same breakdown, whole class reading, the same questions, but here in blue, you'll see you have our suggested answers to provide just more support for you as you are facilitating this learning in your classroom. As we head back over to our materials page, I'm going to scroll down to a writing lesson. And so one of the things that I am so excited to share with you is that writing lessons are now being provided digitally on our platform. So I'm just going to hop into the student preview to show you what some of our writing lessons look like. And as we move closer to the beginning of the school year, more of the writing lessons will look like. This writing lesson, again, is from 6th grade, Unit 1. This particular lesson looks at choosing relevant evidence. So as you know, you've got our introduction, tells students the goal for the day. As we click into part 2, students are getting their lesson. So here we have a definition where students are learning what is the definition of an argument, what is the definition of an evidence, and then also an opportunity to engage. Why is the evidence and example not relevant? Oh, good question. So students get to think about that. Another great thing about our writing instruction is the connection between writing and reading. As you see here, this is a text students would have read in Unit 1, and now they're actually being asked to practice writing skills with something they've already read. So in this particular question, they're being asked which piece of evidence supports the idea that Martin is embarrassed by Grandpa after Grandpa arrives. So I'm just going to click that answer. In the moment, I am getting immediate feedback as to whether my answers are right or wrong, so I can start to make minor adjustments. Another great thing about our writing instruction is multiple at-bats. There are 4 versions of this question, so that I get to practice the same skill over and over and hopefully get some mastery with this particular skill. As I move into part 3, the responsibility of me as a student grows. So before I had 2 choices to pick, now I have to go to the text myself and I have to pick the evidence. So we haven't completely released our responsibility. Students have an amazing jump link. So if they click that jump link, it's going to take them to a smaller portion of text. They have a question and they have to pick a piece of evidence from the smaller portion of text. So as you can see in this writing lesson, students are given multiple opportunities to practice minor skills that if they gain those minor skills, it's going to help them be a stronger writer. Again, we have the interactivity of this activity, of this section, as well as getting multiple opportunities to practice. As we head back to our materials page, and it's going to get me back on the materials page. Here we go. As we head back to the materials page, I just want to scroll and share a few more things with you as we begin to wind this webinar down and close it out for today. As you see, there's multiple writing lessons. If you can assign them digitally, or you can also provide a student copy of those. We have multiple reading lessons, again, vocabulary quizzes for students. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here at related media exploration. I'm not going to open it, but I just want to spotlight these amazing activities. Sometimes students need something other than a text to understand a concept. And so related media exploration includes videos, political cartoons, graphics, informational graphics, graphs, data, and it allows students to explore the topic in a more visual and different way than just writing. And so in this particular lesson, students are learning about how we can change our brains, and they're watching a video of NBA star Steph Curry, and he talks about how practice habits led to his success. They're also watching a video on neuroplasticity, how our brains can change and grow. And then they watch another video on effective practice. So again, these units include so many different types of activities for so many different types of learners so that every student can be successful with the topic. We have grammar and usage activities as well as writing and discussion lessons. So I'm going to take us back into our deck and I'm going to close us out and I'm going to see if I can come back on video. There I am. All right, so here we go. In conclusion, what is CommonLit 360? Well, if you didn't learn anything else in today's session, I hope you remembered the 4-letter word. That's probably the most important thing. It is absolutely free, just like our other CommonLit lessons. There are so many supports for struggling students. We have like highlighting, read aloud, we have scaffolded in-text questions, supplemental text, text in Spanish, and also optional tier 2 resources for differentiation. So whether you're using this to fill in gaps or you're using this as your main curriculum, there are so many supports for all of the learners in your room. Again, you just saw me in our platform. I'm in the reading lessons, I'm in the writing lessons, I'm in the decks. CommonLit 360 is 100% digital. Lessons can be completed through commonlit.org, as well as you can give grade and give feedback. We also have Clever and Google Classroom integrations, and we have more new LTI integrations coming in the future. Access to CommonLit 360, you just need a teacher's account. If you remember from the very beginning, I was on the homepage, I clicked into the library, and it was the second link. So if you have a teacher account, you're going to be green lighted for all those amazing resources you just saw. And then last but not least, dig in deeper with our curriculum overview. There is going to be a link put into chat right now for this resource, but it is also on the units page. It's like in that first paragraph. So you have access. And again, it's going to give you the unit breakdown, all of the text by unit, unit overviews, all those great things as a teacher for planning you would want to have either for yourself or to share. Everything I have demoed in today's webinar is free. So let's remember, free. These are additional affordable wraparound services for an effective rollout. And so we have an amazing team of coaches who can provide professional development. We also have a professional development portal. We also have benchmarks in our assessment series, as well as priority customer service. And so if you were interested in those things, you're going to go to our website. You're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you're going to find partnerships with schools. And when you click on that, it's going to give you all the information you need about these services, as well as a form to fill out in order to get in contact with someone on our team. These services allow us to continue with our nonprofit mission of making sure CommonLit is free. Last but not least, feedback. It's feedback time. So at this time, one of my colleagues is putting the link into the chat feature. This will allow you to give us feedback. What are you excited about? I hope there was something you're excited about. What questions do you still have? What wonderings do you still have? Do you have ideas? Like when I was looking at you do that, it made me think of this. Like we want all of that feedback because that's how we make a product that's not only great for some kids, it's great for all kids. Well, we have come to the end of this webinar and I'm about a couple minutes over because I like to talk. But thank you for joining us today. We are so glad you joined us today for CommonLit 360 Curriculum Sneak Peek webinar. We're going to stay on the call today to answer all questions. So if you have a question, don't feel like because it's over, you have to leave right now. But we want to say thank you for joining us and you have an amazing, amazing day. Thanks. Bye.